Good day everyone! A blessed day to all of you. After the discussion about functionalism theory, let's now proceed to the next theory, which is the conflict theory. But before going to our main topic, I'll give you a little information about social sciences, sociologists, and sociology, which are also connected to our topic in order for you to familiarize yourself about these three. So, conflict theory is one of those social sciences theories, and we're going to discuss its implications to education. So, let's first define what is social sciences. So, social sciences is scientific study of human society and social relationships. This is the mixture of many subjects like history, geography, political, science, economic sociology, social psychology, and many more. So because of social sciences and of course studying social sciences, we are able to understand the importance of equality and diversity. Kapag sinabi nating diversity, ito yung pagkakaiba-iba. Tayo ay diverse. That we should attain and also apply in our societies. Ano nga bang sensong social sciences na pinag-aralan natin kung hindi naman natin i-apply sa ating society para magkaroon ng improvement? But because of factors like inequality, the contrary of equality, we are experiencing unrightful experiences such as discrimination. Kung nararanasan nyo yan noong kayo ay elementary or high school. And of course, the racism, one of the biggest problem in our world today. So, let's proceed to the next one, which is sociologists. Who are the sociologists? So, they are the one who studies how people act within societies and other groups. If you're interested in issues like gender, roles, crime, or the way families interact, you might want to be a sociologist. Or baka naman hindi talaga educator yung dapat para sa inyo. Kung talagang interested kayo sa gender roles, crime, or the family's interaction or the social aspect, baka nagkamali lang kayo ng pinili dyan, or baka naman yung skills or abilities ko is pang sociologist talaga. Hindi ko kayo nililito, promise. So, let's proceed to the other one. So, I'll give you a trivia. The French philosopher Auguste Comte, 1798 to 1857, is the father of sociology who first used the term sociology in 1838 refer to the scientific study of society. So, ito si Auguste Comte, siya yan. Picture niya yan. Siya yung unang gumamit ng word na sociology para gamitin as a study or scientific study sa ating society. Yan. Alam niyo na kung sino yung father ng sociology. So, let's proceed to the next one. So, as I mentioned earlier, who are the sociologists? They are the one today who employ the three primary theoretical perspectives. What are those? Those are functionalist perspectives, conflict perspective, and symbolic interactionist perspective. So these three are the theories that I am talking about. And we are going to discuss is the second one, which is the conflict perspective. Take note, the perspective given offers sociology's theoretical paradigms for explaining how society influences people and how people influences the society. Each perspective uniquely conceptualize society, social forces, and human behavior. So those three perspectives have connection on how society influence people or vice versa. Yung tatlong theory, may kinalaman siya kung paano naiimpluwensyahan ng tao ang society at kung paano naman nagkakaroon ng impluensya ang society sa tao. Vice versa lang. At yung perspectives na yun, yung tatlo, kinedefine niya or kinoconceptualize kung paano ba nagkakaroon ng social force o kung paano nabubuo yung behaviors of humans in our society. The main topic that we are going to discuss is all about conflict theory. I hope you're ready to learn about it. So, let's define all about the conflict theory first. So, a theory that focuses on the negative, conflicted, and ever-changing nature of society. That's the first definition of conflict theory. So, conflict theory from its own word, conflict, which is a clash between ideas and principles and people. So, it focuses on struggle of social issues to the negative sides. The next one is it involves the quality of school. Why it involves the quality of school? Because schools are the foundation of education, and education promotes inequality to both learners and teachers. That's according to conflict theory. The last one is it emphasizing how education also perpetuates social inequality. So, perpetuates means nag-uudyok or it is the reason why nagkakaroon ng isang bagay or let's say perpetuate social inequality. So, education daw yung nagiging rason kung bakit nagkakaroon ng social inequality. It is because education or in schools we have students and teachers that are in lower and higher class. Yung mayaman or mahirap, nagkakaroon doon ng conflict or pagkakaiba. Kasi kapag mayaman ka, you are going to private schools na syempre maraming mga facilities na pwedeng gamitin na mas angat doon sa public schools. So, the education or yung process ng learning is mas mabilis. And of course, yung tinatawag natin na bright students at saka yung mga students na nasa lower ang kanilang abilities in terms of learning. Nagkakaroon doon ng conflict. So, for us to better understand what I'm talking about, let's analyze this picture. So, as you can see, there are 8 people, 4 on the left side and 4 on the right side. They are having a contradiction. Naghihigitan sila, nagkakaroon ng labanan, nagkakaroon ng agawan. Meron silang gustong na magkaiba yung paniniwala or magkaiba yung decision or magkaiba yung dapat na goal ng bawat sides, yung both sides. Kaya nagkakaroon ng conflict. That is the representation of conflict theory. Who are the founder of conflict theory? So it grew out of the work of Karl Marx and Max Weber. Sila yung foundation or the founder of the conflict theory. So, this is what I am talking about. According to conflict theory, there are always two opposing sides in conflict situation. Yan. As I said a while ago, there's a contradiction between the both opposite sides. For example, i-base natin siya sa decision making or sa debate, di ba? Mayroong contradiction between both sides wherein may conflict na nangyayari. Just the situation, conflict theory is also like that. So, to add more, people take sides between maintaining the status quo and introducing change, then arrive at an agreement. People are looking on the status quo. Status quo means yung situation, yung status na meron kayo. Kunwari ay, it depends upon kasi sa situation, yung isang agreement or yung isang decision making sa isang particular na problem. So, status quo is the situation or the status in terms of job, in terms of your life, career, just like that. And after analyzing about the status quo, they will start having decision of change so they can proceed to agreement. So, conflict theory welcomes conflict. That is the way to the establishment of a new society. So, according to this conflict is the key of the new society. Do you agree? when you're going to ask my opinion about this, it is a yes or no. Both. I'm in the middle side. Why? Because welcoming conflict can awake our minds, not just to accept those conflict, but also to make moves to resolve that. Even I know that it was very hard because nowadays, kung sino yung mas malakas ang power, siya yung mas mataas eh. And society composed of different social classes. Yung higher classes, yung mga mayayaman, middle class, yung katamtaman, or in the lower class, yung mga mahihirap. And that is a conflict. At hindi natin maaalis yung power na nasa high class. Mahirap yung tanggalin. Kung sino yung mas mataas yung position, syempre, siya yung may kapangyarihan. Mas lamang yung kapangyarihan niya kaysa dun sa nasasakupan niya in lower class. So, let's proceed and analyze this picture. So, this picture is for us to better understand how social actors compete and how they use their power to control, dominate, and exploit groups in the society. Ang tinutukoy na social actors dyan ay tayong mga tao. As you can see in the picture, there is a man who has a glass of juice, a glass that is full of juice on the water. And beside that man, there's people, a group of individuals who are sipping juice in just one glass of water. And greedily, the man who has full of juice in his glass is also sipping the juice on the group of people. So as you can see in the picture, there is inequality. For example, this is a situation in a job. Ito ang boss, ito yung kanyang employees. So, mas makapangyarihan siya, and alam naman natin na maliit lang talaga ang sweldo ng employees. Mas malaki talaga dun sa manager. Kunwari, manager to. This is what really happens in the society, in that kind of institution or in a company. And for example, sa education, ganun din yun. Mas makapangyarihan yung mas mataas ang position, which are controlled by groups with power. It is because schools contribute to the unequal distribution of people into jobs in society. How? Meron din tayong tinatawag na unequal pagdating sa trabaho. For example, the teacher. The one teacher graduated as a cum laude, and the other one graduated without the honors. Just like that. Siyempre, mas malakas yung opportunity na makakuha ng trabaho agad yung cum laude. And unlike dun sa isa na hindi siya honors, wala siyang Latin honors, ganun. Pansin natin ganyan. Kapag ang isang graduated student ay nakatapos ng may Latin honors, ang nangyayari is nagkakaroon ng invitations, nagkakaroon sila ng opportunities. Yung schools ang kumukuha sa kanila. Meron sa kanilang request na doon sila kuhanin sa school na yon. Kasi nga, binibase nila dun sa abilities or skills nung teachers na graduated. Ganun nakikita yung unequal distribution of people into jobs in society. And this views of conflict theory on education and equality was agreed by conflict theorists. They are the one who studied about conflicts or the societal conflicts are the one who find potential conflict between any groups where inequality exists. Those are racial, gender, religious, political, economics, and so on. Hindi lang pala sa education or economic nagkakaroon ng inequalities. Kapag ang society natin ay nagkakaroon ng conflict. Ito din ay sa ating gender, of course. Kasi minsan, ang lalaki ang pinipili sa isang particular na job. Hindi pwede ang babae. Again, kunwari ay sa mga electrical, yung paggawa, yung nagawa ng mga sa Ormeco, for example, yung umaakyat sa mga poste, ganun. Diba? Sa religious din, because of different religious or yung mga paniniwala sa kanilang mga Diyos, kay Allah, sa Buddha, kay Christ, diba? May pagkakaiba-iba yan. So, ang paniniwala nila ay nakakaapekto kung paano sila nabubuhay sa ating mundo, sa ating society. And because of different religions nga, yung iba kasi may bawal sa isang event or may mga paniniwala sila na hindi pwedeng gawin sa isang society. Ganyan. Which is, kinokontradict naman ng isang religion. So, naaapektuhan talaga. So, inequality ay nagkakaroon doon. Nag-i-exist yung inequality. In terms of political, paano ang political nagkakaroon ng conflict sa political? Siyempre, sa political, kung sino yung mataas ang posisyon, siya yung masusunod. And yung mga taong bayan, minsan kasi ang nangyayari ay hindi sila napapakinggan. Kasi mas may power yung mas nasa taas or yung mga governors, president of the Philippines, which is pwede nilang i-oppose yung opinion or pwede nilang hindi sundin yung sinasabi ng taong bayan na normal people. So, may kita agad natin doon yung inequality. So, that is a conflict. The conflict theorists also note that unequal groups usually have conflicting values and agendas, causing them to compete against one another. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina, for example, sa religion, iba yung paniniwala nila, iba yung mga ginagawa nila. So, nagkakaroon ng conflict. Hindi sang-ayon yung isang religion sa Catholic, for example. For example is, in Baptist and born again, they are prohibited na kumain ng dugo. Unlike sa Catholic na pwede. So, yung values nila or yung culture sa paggawa ng ganung bagay o yung mga practices na yon is contradict sa Catholics. Kumakain sila nun eh. Kaya nagkakaroon ng conflict. Nagkakaroon sila ng competition. So, what happens to the competition? This constant competition between groups forms the basis for the ever-changing nature of society. So, there's a competition. Kaya we have conflicts that happens in our society. At yung constant competition na yun between groups, kaya nagkakaroon ng basis sa pagbabago ng ating society. Next is, let's now proceed to the question, how proponents of conflict theory regard education. So let's now define what is education according to conflict theory. So according to this theory, education is not truly a social benefit or opportunity as seen by the functionalists. Rather, education is a power, means of maintaining power structures and creating a docile workforce for capitalism. So, sinasabi ng theory na to, ang education daw is not for social benefit, but it is a power na nagme-maintain ng power structures at bumubuo ng mga docile workforce. Ano ba yung docile workforce? Yun yung total number of workers which are easily taught or easily to influence in a specific job for economic and political system. Capitalism means economic system in which private individuals own capital goods. Ano ba yung mga capital goods na yan? For examples ay yung mga products natin. For example, machine, mga ganyan, mga fabrics, foods, dresses, materials for constructions, and motorcycles or any vehicles just like that, or any products or services na ibinebenta or pinagkakakitaan ng isang company or ng isang tao. So, what is the purpose of education according to conflict theory? The purpose of education is to maintain social inequality and to preserve the power of those in the working class to accept their position as a lower class worker of society. This is called hidden curriculum. So social inequality has been emphasized. So in education, there are people who have higher position with a strong power and those who are in lower positions. Ang alam natin, the main purpose ng education is the key for educated persons that through our society, we can have, or through education, our society can have productive people, which we can attain the equal treatments kasi educated nga ang tao, but not perfectly. But in conflict theory, sinasabi na maintaining or pagpapanatili ng social inequality ang purpose ng education. And that is called hidden curriculum. Now, let's see how hidden curriculum works. So, it socializes young people into obedience and conformity. Conformity means may standard ka wherein this is your yielding or yung panangga mo to group pressures. What are the group pressures? Bullying, criticisms, and teasing. For them to be developed as docile workers, to be easily taught individuals. So hidden curriculum also refers to unwritten, unofficial lessons, values, perspectives that students learn in school. Informally siyang naiituro sa isang classroom. So this is the concept that is based on the recognition that students absorb lessons in schools that may or may not be part of the formal course of study. For example, how they should interact with peers, teachers, and other adults. How students should perceive different races, groups, or classes of people, or what ideas and behaviors are considered acceptable and unacceptable. So this hidden curriculum is described as hidden, nakatago, because it is usually unacknowledged or unexamined by students, educators, and the wider community. Kung ating mas papalaguin or papalawigin, ito yung hindi talaga nakalagay siya sa textbooks or wala siya sa lesson plans na dapat ituro ng isang teacher. It was teaching in a way of informal. And because the values and lessons reinforced by the hidden curriculum are often the accepted status quo, it may be assumed that these hidden practices and messages don't need to change. Hindi na kailangang baguhin, even if they are contributing undesirable behaviors and results. So, this idea of conflict theory about the hidden curriculum was opposed by the functionalists. While functionalists disagree about the conflict theory idea, let's know the reason why. So, why functionalists disagree strongly? It is because they asserted that if schools teach adherence to policies, obedience to rules, respect for persons, including authorities, punctuality, and honesty, civil rights, it is because they are their principles dear to democratic way of life. It is not because they want to make the workers remain docile, unquestioning, and subservient forever, while those in power remain in power. Inopose siya ng functionalist because democratic way ang pamumuhay ng tao. That's the reason why schools teach the obedience to rules not to make the workers remain docile. Sinasabi ng functionalist na kaya nagtuturo sa school ng obedience to rules, respeto sa tao, yung punctuality, yung honesty, or pagkakaroon ng civil right ay dahil mayroong democratic na principles. Mayroong democratic way of life. Hindi daw siya para magkaroon ng mga workers na docile. Hindi para gawing docile forever ang workers. hindi para magkaroon ng mga madaling turuan, madaling impluwensyahang mga workers. So, I'll give an example of conflict theory. So, this is one example of conflict theory, which involves the function of social replacement. When most schools begin tracking their students in grade school, the students taught by their teachers to be bright, placed in the faster tracks, especially in reading and arithmetic, while the slower students are placed in the slower tracks. In senior high school, 3 common tracks are the college track, vocational, and general track. So on the example, we can see the difference. Actually, a big difference. Let's say those bright students are in higher or faster tracks. Unlike the slower students are in slower tracks because of the capacity they had. Through tracking, it can identify what track they should belong. And of course, there's social inequality in there. So, tracking, ang tinatawag na tracking diyan, sa example na yan, it is the advanced learners versus lower achievers. Advanced learners and lower achievers. So, we can say there na kapag bright students ka or you are advanced achiever, you are in the faster tracks. Kapag nasa low achiever ka naman, you are in a slower tracks. Wherein, kapag bright students ka, syempre, mas advanced yung alam mo. Dun ka nila ilalagay sa mahirap na gawain. Or, for example, in reading and in arithmetic, mas high yung expectation sa'yo kasi bright student ka. Unlike the slower students. Wherein, nagkakaroon dito ng inequality in terms of pakikasalamuhan ng mga teachers or ibang estudyante. Syempre, pag matalino ka, medyo mas nasa yung pabor ng teacher. Especially in the class kapag nagdi-discuss kayo. So, here's the illustration for better understanding of what I am talking about. So, school composed of social integration, social placement, socialization, social and cultural innovation. So, social integration is the process or a dynamic. Ibig sabihin, nagbabago. Or yung structured process with all members to maintain peaceful social relations. While socialization, you are socializing with others, interacting with friends and family which enable a person to function within his or her culture. On the other hand, social placement is the use of education to improve our social standing. It helps in learning about the society as a whole. And then, social and cultural innovation, kapag sinabi natin social and cultural innovation, it is the improvement of our social and culture aspect through the help of education, of course, in school. Because school is a training ground for students for the future purposes. And let's now proceed to the question, what did conflict theories says about tracking? Ano yung idea or sinasabi ng conflict theories about sa tracking? They said that tracking also helps perpetuate social inequality by looking students into faster and lower tracks. Perpetuate means cause. So, si tracking daw ang nagiging dahilan o nag-preserve sa social inequality. Siya yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng hindi pagkakapantay-pantay in terms of our social aspect. Especially in education, in school, interactions between social communication, social interactions between teachers and the learners. Once they are tracked, students learn more if they are tracked up and less if they track down. Of course, those students who are faster tracks, they are tracked up. Mas madami yung matututunan nila. Unlike the persons or achievers learners na nasa lower tracks. To summarize all the topics about conflict theory affects the education, wherein there's educational implications of conflict theory. So, it says that education promotes social inequality through the use of tracking and the standardized testing and the impact of its hidden curriculum. Schools differs widely in their funding and learning conditions, and this type of inequality leads to learning disparities that reinforce social inequality. So, education is just giving our society to be unequal, wherein because of tracking, we have learning disparities. Ano ba yung mga learning disparities? So, those are the unequal distribution of academic resources. And of course, the school funding. Qualified and experienced teachers. In terms of funding and learning conditions, magkaiba. There are people na mahiyaman and mahihirap or in the middle class. And of course, mas mataas yung funding ng school, ng learning, kapag marami kang facilities. Pag mas marami yung mga kailangan gamitin sa teaching. For example, is that sa training grounds of the teaching. Mas mabilis yung process of learning. That's why nagkakaroon ng differences between teaching of public and the private. But of course, teachers in public school making sure that they're giving learnings to the students efficiently and effectively. But of course, it is advanced when the school is composed of materials that are needed by the students. For example, in science class, public schools, kung ating mapapansin, they are limited in instruments. While on the high-class schools, they have lots of instruments that they can use personally na magagamit nila on the spot para mabilis nilang maintindihan yung isang topic or how an observation or experiments works. That's it. So, here, I downloaded a video for you to better understand more about the topic.
Hey guys, Physical Emotions here. Today's topic is going to be conflict theory. Have you ever noticed a divide in society between the privileged and those who are not? Such as someone who is rich versus someone who is poor. This is what we call conflict theory. Karl Marx, a philosopher, journalist, revolutionary socialist, and potentially Santa Claus's doppelganger, is considered the father of conflict theory. He pointed out the continuous competition for power between different classes in society and how the more powerful groups exploit those with less. He suggested that social order is maintained by domination, so power lies in the hands of those with the greatest political, economic, or social resources. This often leads to power struggles for those with less. This inequality still exists because those who are in a better position of society actively try to defend this standing. Consider the following. Let's say an individual named, say, Karl Marx, has a minimum wage income and is paying rent for a housing. A conflict theorist might claim that the relationship between Karl and the owner would be strongly unequal. Karl could pay rent for decades and still gain no right or economic interest with the property. Karl doesn't advance his placement in society. He remains in an unchanging position. He pays rent, the owner collects. In this way, the owner remains above Karl, and because of his already advantageous position, is fortunate enough to advance further. So why are the ones with less power stuck in that situation? Can't they just leave if they're treated poorly? Oh, it's not that simple. They don't have any other options. It's a repeating cycle. Picture this. One family wealthy, they can afford to send their eldest son to receive a good education and a lucrative career to follow. Not discriminating against girls, by the way. He then passes on this wealthy torch to further generations and so on. And another family. Both parents have mediocre jobs, but they can't afford to educate their children. So these children later on find similar jobs to their parents, and the seemingly inescapable trend continues. Poverty to poverty, wealthiness to wealthiness. This has been happening since the dawn of civilization. Whether it was the slaves and their masters, lords and serfs, or capitalists and wage laborers. Marx argues that all of human history has always been about this conflict. In addition to that, one of the only solutions is to have a revolution by breaking the political and economic domination by the higher class and reorganizing society with collective ownership and mass democratic control. If only things were this equal and fair, maybe things could be successful for all, and there wouldn't be any more struggle. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Another lesson done by Physical Emotions. Thanks for watching.
Created using Powtoon.